I will be reading a passage from T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land, specifically passage 5, What the Thunder Said. I'll be reading the first 9 lines. After the torchlight red on sweaty faces, after the frosty silence in the gardens, after the agony in stony places, the shouting and the crying, prison and palace and reverberation of thunder of spring over distant mountains, he who was living is now dead. We who are living are now dying with little patience. Now, this passage specifically stood out to me because I think this is the passage where it became clear what what his main point of the poem was about. Now, as discussed in the article, Eliot's Last Laugh, The Dissolution of Satire in the Wasteland, which can be found in the Journal of Modern Literature, they talk about how satire isn't really relevant in this poem, and that in earlier drafts of the poem, satire was used, but it was taken out for what is described as a mythical method. But in this article, it talks about how the mythical method fails to accomplish the task that T.S. Eliot wrote this poem for. And I kind of disagree with this because I think after the passage I just read, it kind of becomes apparent what T.S. Eliot was talking about, that it's more about us as a society, that over the years and during Eliot's time this began, we became less, we didn't raise the bar, so to speak, with academics, and that's carried on over the years. I mean, if you look at today, how many classrooms are group or partner work? Nothing's really individual in our education anymore, and we have so many tools at our disposal, and people, the teachers, and it wasn't always like that. I mean, technology aside, things were much stricter years ago, and I think what Eliot is trying to show is that we are at his time, we are starting to degrade in education, and that's why this poem, minus it being so long, is so complex and just switches, and there's so many references, and it just switches people, like, who's telling it randomly without warning. And it's meant to be that way, so we would research it, maybe look into it more to sort of gain that bar raising back, to gain more education by understanding what he's trying to say. And what the article, Eliot's Last Laugh, is saying is that it didn't really do that. But something else we have to understand, Eliot didn't make all of his points easy to interpret or understand. You gotta really dig deep, and I think that this poem is considered one of his greatest works, and if not the greatest, and I think, that speaks volumes. But despite what the article says, and whether I agree or disagree, the article proves the point of Thomas Foster, who wrote How to Read Literature Like a Professor, in which Foster talks about how authors, do they really intend their work to be symbolic and have this certain meaning? And the short answer is yes, that people do that. And these people are dubbed intentionalists, which I believe T.S. Eliot does fall into that category.